Hello and welcome to the video Whitetail. I'm Matt Kutzweiler. In this video, we're going to discover ways on how to get super close to big bucks. We'll look at some hot techniques which will help you find the bigger, older, mature bucks. One point of great interest will be finding doe and doe groups. Find areas where the does frequent most often, and then hunt downwind of the trails leading into them. When the rut is on, bucks will follow these trails to the habitat where the does congregate most often in the fall and winter. I want to mention that it's important in your hunting area, whether it be a farm or a ranch or what have you, that you leave an acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, leave it alone. Leave it as kind of a sanctuary for the does to hang around in, to feel safe. And then when the rut is on, hunt the trails that lead in and out of there. It'll draw bucks like a magnet. And if you don't harass the does, normally they'll stay in a given area. They'll wander a little bit to feed now and then and to bed down, but they always seem to have one little area where 1 or 2 doe groups will hang around. And I think it's very important to be successful if you want to bag a big whitetail like on the wall here, that if you leave a certain area like a sanctuary, keep it quiet and don't harass the does, that sooner or later you're going to get yourself a big buck. I use certain variables while videotaping whitetail. I use no camouflage whatsoever. Camouflage, I do realize, is important, but I wanted to try to establish how much these deer really use their eyes. And it's right up there with their nose. A lot of times the deer saw me, knew I was danger much earlier than they scented me by. I used only one type of fox scent to cover up my human odor, and one type of sex or rut scent to make the deer less cautious. Also, unlike other deer videos, I kept the magnification of my lens at 8 power or less instead of 16 or 18 power that are most often used, so I would have to get bow hunter close to these deer. Most of the footage is shot at 30 yards and less, and many of the bigger bucks at less than that. So in the video you're going to see a lot of deer that's already detected my presence. But I want to establish the point that I was real close to them. With the camera and that, a lot of the big bucks that I've got within 20, 30, 40 yards of. I'm also not going to endorse any products in this video, so it's not going to be loaded down with scenes of hunting equipment, clothing, bows, or guns. It's just going to be deer, and more deer. I want only to show you sportsmen and women who are going out in the field that you can find your trophy whitetail. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the video.
Whitetails, big, beautiful animals that inhabit deep forests, as well as prairies and mountainous regions. Hunters seek out this big game animal, not only for the delicious flavor of its meat, but also for its rack, the bony-like growth on top of a male whitetail's head, called antlers. A big buck such as this is a real hunter's prize. Heavy beams and a wide spread make this buck a much sought-after trophy. This buck is remaking his scrape after a heavy fall of snow. Scrapes are made by bucks, and they act as a contact point, a place where the buck will either meet a doe or pick up her estrus scent. If a buck is not in the area, she will urinate in the scrape, and a buck will follow her scent until he meets up with her. Notice how this buck rubs his eye glands on the branch overhanging the scrape. Scrapes will almost always have some sort of a branch hanging above them. Bucks chew on the limbs and usually rub their eye glands, called preorbital glands, on them. He does this as part of the scrape ritual to signify that this scrape is his. It also serves as a particular buck's personal marker. It's very apparent that this doe is not quite in estrus yet, or this buck would be chasing her. This buck is getting prepared for the upcoming rut. His swelled neck indicates that there should be big cedar trees rubbed in the area. Even though this buck is preoccupied with making a scrape, he is still very alert. Ears forward, he is constantly hearing, looking, and smelling for danger. It's definitely a buck's rack that most hunters seek. When hunting whitetails, hunters should look for signs that bucks are in the area. One way to establish this is to find rubs. Rubs are marking on a tree or shrub and have a debarked look to them. The size of the tree rubbed usually can indicate the general size of that buck's antlers. Rubs on cedar trees this big indicate a trophy buck worth hunting. Another way in which to determine if a rutting buck is in the area is to find scrapes. Scrapes are round or oval patches of bare ground pawed by a buck. They range in size from 2 feet, used mainly by one buck, to 4 feet in diameter, indicating a primary scrape, one which is used by many bucks. Scrapes usually seem to have a branch hanging directly over them and are found in the vicinity of rubs. Scrapes will usually have the imprint of a deer's hoof or that of antler tines raked through them. When hunting a certain scrape or series of scrapes called a scrape line, it's sometimes best to hunt out of a tree stand. Position the stand downwind and on either side of a trail leading to or from the scrape. Hunting over scrapes can be extremely productive, especially just before and during the rut. Make sure that your tree stand is camouflaged and safely secured to a tree. Portable tree stands can make a deer hunter very mobile and allows the hunter the luxury of hunting different areas of a buck's territory during the hunting season. It also allows a hunter to take advantage of changing wind directions. Another way in which to find bucks, and especially trophy bucks, is to find doe groups. Discover areas where does seem to frequent. Does usually have areas which they seem to prefer over others. This might be a stand of evergreens or patches of tall grass near a feeding or bedding area. Find a group or two of does in the area you intend to hunt and leave them alone. Bucks will seek out the estrus does during the rut. Bucks will seek out the estrus does during the rut. By the time a buck reaches this age class, he usually knows the travel areas and bedding locations of does. Checking scent trails, the buck can tell if a hot doe is near. Does seem to feel safe in tall grasses, and bucks can be found often searching for them there. Even though human odor was blowing toward this nice buck, he wouldn't leave the grassy field. Something is holding this buck steady, like a pointer on a covey of quail. What's the reason for such a wary animal to behave in this manner? There must be a hot doe nearby. Although he seems less cautious than most whitetails during hunting season, he must feel secure in the tall grass, which provide him with cover. Suddenly, he can no longer tolerate the standoff between himself and the cameraman. He bolts to the upwind side and almost steps on a bedded doe. He eagerly follows her to the security of some heavy timber. When big bucks are full of rut, they can be found hanging in and around the edges of doe groups. They often will not stray very far from them, even during the day. Crossing icy streams will not even discourage a buck from following his does. When the rut hits its peak, usually in mid-November, a buck will follow a doe in estrus anywhere she travels. The dominant buck will keep very close tabs on his doe so that a younger, less dominant buck does not attempt to breed her. Even if the doe is not quite receptive yet, he will attempt to stay very close by. This is the time when the hunter's chances of bagging a trophy buck is best. Occupied by constantly moving with his doe, the white-tailed buck will not feed or rest in their normal pattern for days. A big percentage of his caution is thrown out of balance due to the rutting urge to breed as many does as he possibly can. Whitetails constantly use their sense to detect danger. By smelling air currents, deer can discover what type of danger, if any, lies ahead. Whitetails have a very keen sense of smell and use their nose constantly to check air currents, while their eyes scan the area for danger and ears stand ready to pick up any unusual sound. Here, this small buck checks a doe's estrus state by tasting and smelling urine. This nose curling is called flamen. It usually means hot does are close by. Notice how these does are checking air currents for any possible scent of danger. When human odor is detected, this is what is often heard. When an excited deer blows air through and out of its nasal passages, it's called snorting. Deer immediately leave the area. When danger is spotted by eyesight, but the deer are not quite sure how threatening of a situation is present, they will stomp a front hoof sharply on the ground. Foot stomping alerts other deer in the area that some sort of a threat is near. This doe is on the edge of exploding into a bound. Unable to catch any scent of danger, she slowly approaches, all the while stomping her foot. Many deer, when cautiously approaching unidentified danger, will often stomp the ground, raise their flag or tail, and head bob. During this, they not only draw the attention of other deer to the potential danger, but also the deer try to get a better view and to catch any movement. Whitetail deer have extremely large ears. These ears are fine-tuned to catch all sounds, both natural and unnatural in its environment. By constantly swiveling their ears, a whitetail can pick up sounds from any directions. Ears laid back, this buck listens for sounds behind him. By moving his head and ears in one direction, he is able to better detect unnatural sounds, which might in turn mean danger. This big buck is definitely zeroed in on the cameraman. A nervous whitetail, ears outstretched sideways, promptly leaves the area. Whenever a hunter is out in the field looking for whitetails, whether it be before, during, or after the season, it pays to be as cautious as possible. By moving slowly and watching the wind direction, one has the possibility of stalking up on a bedded whitetail. A bedded deer is usually found where detecting danger is easiest for him. He'll be watching, smelling, and listening for any distraction, while he has the advantage of being still. Another point of interest while trying to locate your trophy deer is to find stream crossings. Trails used by deer in the fall and winter can be found by wading creeks and streams. Trails will run right down to the water's edge. Look to the other side and you'll find the other portion of the trail. Hunting these whitetail runs can be very productive when the rut is in full swing. They're also good to hunt close by, when deer are being pushed by other hunters during gun and bow season. Take special note where deer cross roads and highways. Seek permission first before you cross any fences or set foot on anyone's property. Another way to find areas where deer frequent is by walking along fences. This doesn't sound real exciting, but by locating places where deer cross, it can be very helpful when deciding on the right location to place a stand. Where a fence makes a border between a field and timber, deer seem to mill around inside of the timber, often providing a hunter an easy shot. Brushy fence lines sometimes serve the deer as an avenue along which to travel. This could make for an excellent hunting situation if the fence line connects to timbered areas. When hunting late in the season, especially when temperatures drop to below freezing, a hunter looking for a buck must begin to hunt close by remaining food sources. The secondary rut is over, and bucks seem to be drawn to areas of forage. Fields that contain alfalfa or ears of corn knocked down by the combines offer a very good place to find bucks. Stands of oak offer an excellent chance of sighting deer late in the season, as deer feed heavily upon the remaining acorns. Northern deer will begin to group together in or near cedar swamps, which offer not only protection from the wind, but the trees themselves offer the deer browse. The deer will browse on the needles during the late winter when deep snows blanket the forests. By spending as much time in the field as possible, you'll increase your chances of running into bucks such as this monster. This buck will score high enough on the Boone and Crockett scoring system to make the record book. A big buck, such as this one, will be 4 to 7 years old, have excellent genes, and must have available to him a good food source throughout the fall and winter. All of these, plus being super cautious of humans, have helped him become a super trophy. While you are out hunting whitetail, look for crops in your area which the deer prefer. Hunting along the edges of bean fields, alfalfa fields, cornfields, and stands of nut-bearing oaks provides an excellent opportunity of locating deer. Most hunting areas have at least one of these foods. Beans, alfalfa, corn, and acorns provide deer with the fat resources needed for good health during the stressful months of winter. During summer months, deer enjoy tender grasses, newly sprouting corn and beans, and tender woodland plants. By finding the foods in your area which the deer prefer, you'll increase your chance of a sighting, then harvesting your deer. Deer herds are on the increase, and with the excellent job of white-tailed deer management that our fish and game departments are doing, we're going to enjoy some excellent deer hunting for many years ahead.
Hello again. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you learned something from this video on how to bag your trophy whitetail. I thought it much better to put the videotape the deer in the field situations, and instead of showing you like a bare field most of the time and explaining that, I wanted to show the deer right there in the field. I do think it's very, very important that if possible, that if you can leave a certain section of your hunting ground, whether it be a farm or ranch land or heavy timber, what have you, if you can leave that certain section a little sanctuary, whether it be an acre, 2 acres, a half an acre, or 10 acres, if you can leave it a sanctuary where does can congregate and feel safe, and if you don't harass those doe groups and kind of leave them alone and hunt the trails that come in and out of that little sanctuary you set aside, that you'll find that not only you're going to see your dominant buck in your area, but that maybe from a mile, 2 miles, or 4 miles down the way, that one of the big monsters are going to float in and search these does out when they're in heat, when they're in their estrus cycle. And I feel that by leaving these sanctuaries alone, that you can increase your odds of bagging a buck. Scrapes are very important, and they're very successful to hunt, a ways away from a scrape and downwind. They're a very good key to establish that you've got a rutting buck in your area. And rubs are also important. To me, they determines pretty much what size of a buck you can expect in your area. If you see a rub on 2 or 3 inches, he's a pretty good buck. If the willow or brush is all worked up and torn up, you got a pretty nice buck in the area. But then again, if you got a 7, 8, maybe even a 12-inch cedar tree or something like that all torn up, well, you have a real big buck in the area. And I feel a key to getting these big whitetails year after year is if you leave these sanctuaries alone and you hunt downwind and off a trail or two that's being used quite frequently, that you're going to have a chance to bag your buck with your gun or bow or even your camera. And I think another important idea to consider that if areas that border your heavy timber or your farmland or your brushland or what have you, that if you could persuade your farmer into selling you maybe a half acre, an acre or so of corn or beans or something, and that if you pay him for it and you work out a deal where you'll cut everything down and take care of it, before spring season comes in, that it's a good food source late in the fall and early in the winter to attract the does, which will attract the bucks. And I think it's very important that you treat your farmers and your ranchers and your people that own the timber, very courteously, because everybody seems to want from them. And if you can be friends with them and share some of your deer meat with them and send them a Christmas card and make them feel that it's just not whitetails you're after, that it's their friendship. I think it's very important to establish a very good friendship, basis with these people. And then it's secondary. A lot of the farmers that let me on their land to hunt and videotape, I honestly feel that if they said you can't come in to hunt tomorrow, I still want to be their friends because they're such good people. They're down to earth, and there's a good quality about them. They're really super people, and it seems like everybody wants for them. If you go and talk to them in the spring and ask them and see if you can hunt or bow hunt or videotape, and instead of doing it, the day before gun season, I think it shows a little bit more for you. And if you have a day off or something, go over and ask to help to work on your ranch or their farm, or cut that oak tree up that fell down on the fence or something like that. Because they're giving you something that you're going to remember for years to come, the opportunity of stalking in their timber and whatnot. And when you get older, or since I'm young, but I know when you get older, and I do feel it now, those memories of seeing those big bucks and that are priceless. And the prices of hunts today, if you go in Alberta, Canada, they're $2,000, $2,500, and a little turkey or a drink that they favor, around Thanksgiving or Christmas time, will show them that you do care about them and that you appreciate their kindness. So I hope you learned a lot from this video, and I wish you good hunting. Thank you very much. I'm Matt Gutzweiler.